Welcome to The Business on Radio Verulam, the voice of your local business community.
Hello, you're listening to The Business, the show that's essential listening for the West Hart business community. This week our theme is doing things differently. We all think of technology businesses like Apple or Google as trendsetters, but we all discover today that now even lawyers, insurance brokers and salons are doing well by doing things differently. So we'll all be talking to some unlikely local innovators. We'll be joined by Andrew James of OnHand Counsel about his alternative approach to the legal profession. Andrew Sykes is an insurance broker who is also breaking the mould of his profession. We also interview Liz Moore, who has opened a salon in her garage, and we'll be finding out why. Plus, what would happen to your business if you gave up the drinks and nibbles circuit and networked through social media alone? Amanda Brown, director of Altera, is on our panel. She did just that, so it's a bit of a coup to get her off social media and into our studio to tell us all about it. And there's lots of top tips from our experts and your best and worst decisions in business, all to come in our jam-packed show. Inevitably jam-packed again. I'm Trevor Merriden, and as ever I'm joined by Victoria Scott and Clare McAnulty. Good evening. Hi, we'll do that again. Sorry. Good evening.
Hello, Trevor.
Hi. Sorry about that. I did that last time as well. Never mind. But what's in the news for you, Vicky?
Well, in line with our theme of doing things differently, I was in Welwyn Garden City the other day, and I was amazed, and I have to say, a teeny weeny bit frightened to death
Right.
when I went to the local pet shop. Not long ago, we bought our beautiful little cat, Socks, from the very same pet shop, and I was returning to buy some kitty treats to keep in favour with the cat, as we all know you have to do. And no longer does the shop have the usual rabbits, guinea pigs, kittens and hamsters. They don't sell anything tame and fluffy like that any longer. They now specialise in arachnids, snakes and lizards of all sizes and shapes. Okay. And I have to say, terrifying they all are.
Right.
So when I inquired as to the reason for this move, it was simple. They said it's just what customers now ask for. They have greater margins on these rather exotic pets. They need more specialised support, and the supermarkets just can't provide that or aren't providing it yet. So really it was a straightforward market shift. It was perfectly combating the competition from the very large chain Sainsburys that's opened up round the corner, who now sell sort of bales of grass pet bedding and every type of pet food for your average pet. But as yet, they don't stock anything to cater for your average tarantula.
Right.
So, although my daughter and I are really, really gutted that we can't pop in and dream of expanding our cat family by checking out small fluffies in the cages, from a marketing perspective, it is without doubt a brilliant move. And I spend a lot of time with clients explaining the importance of moving with the times and not just blaming the times for stagnating businesses. So this is a great example of a small business that really is ahead of the game. And although I'm a bit sad there aren't any fluffies there that I can go and poke my fingers through the cage at, I do wish them every success.
And really doing things differently.
Doing things differently.
That's right, the theme of our show.
Yeah.
Right. Claire, what's grabbed your attention?
My news story this week regards a favourite treat of mine, which is chocolate. I have to confess. This week, Cadbury's lost a 5-year court battle to register the distinctive shade of purple it uses as a trademark for its chocolate bars. Lawyers for rivals, Nestle, managed to overturn a previous judgment that had prevented other manufacturers from wrapping their products in the same dairy milk tone. Now, it might seem like a trivial matter, but as Cadbury's have been using that colour since the 1920s, it did believe it had a good case for claiming that the colour was theirs and associated with them. Other companies that have successfully trademarked a colour include Heinz, with the turquoise colour of its baked bean tins, and rather more exotically, Christian Louboutin, with the distinctive red it uses on the soles of its shoes. So what do you think, Vicky? How important do you think that colour is to a brand?
I think it's really, really important and it's really valuable. You don't have to just stick with one colour. You can have a range of colours, but it's all part of that logo definition. It's all part of those touch points. So every time that people come across you and your brand, they're familiar with that sort of colour. So like on my business cards, I have very pale green, which is very, very distinct. Nobody else has got that sort of colour. So when you're in a sort of a pack, everybody sort of sees yours. There's lots and lots of colours through history, I suppose, which are very famous. Your Ferrari reds and yellows, Tiffany turquoise. There are some colours that really, really stand out that really shout out, so you can actually take away the words and people know who you are. So it's really, really valuable. But trying to patent a colour or trying to find your own colour and then stick to it, difficult thing to do for small business, without a doubt. Yeah,
I think it is important. I can't help but notice, Claire, the colour of your cardigan. I mean, is that Pantone 2685C in honour of it? It's definitely the Cadbury milk.
This is a slightly different colour to that.
Slightly different. I think it's just made, basically your story has made me hungry. I think they want to. I've got a kind of a bigger story. It's not a really local story in terms of KPMG have come up with a sort of thing called, very impressive sounding, Global Change Readiness Index. Every country in the world was measured by the boffins at KPMG, which I'm sure many people know is a sort of big management consultancy, measured in terms of their readiness to change and adjust to new economic pressures. Now, top of the table were countries like Singapore and Sweden and Qatar. Qatar demonstrated their readiness to change this week, in fact, by agreeing to change potentially the World Cup from summer to winter. Okay. That was a bit of a farce. Maybe not the change that they're talking about there. The good news is that the UK is in pretty good shape at 10th in the world, and I just wonder whether the whole kind of essence of a kind of hurrying up and change and being ready to innovate, which is kind of at the core of doing things differently, if you think about it, is a really good sort of bellwether of hopefully of good things to come, perhaps.
And do you mean businesses that are prepared to change, or you mean the whole country in general?
I think it was businesses prepared to change, but I think there was a wider definition as well. They did it's a business index, but also I think they looked at it. I don't know how on earth you measure readiness to change. And it was a sort of like 120-page survey, so I didn't want to read that deeply into it. But
can I just sort of stop there? I don't think we can mention the Qatar World Cup without mentioning the fact that actually it was one of the creative agencies in St Albans that helped Qatar win the World Cup.
Really?
So they did all of the creative work for the pitch, and they're based in George Street. And I think I've mentioned them before on air, but so let's not say bad things about Qatar, because it was one of our very own companies, local company, that helped them win the World Cup.
Okay, I wouldn't dare say anything about the Qatar World. I was just commenting. I was just going for cheap gag, really, about changing from summer to winter. That's no reflection on the bidding process at all. Let's make that clear.
Perfectly obvious.
Yes. We want to hear what you think, though. So do give us a call. The studio number is 01727 839 926. You can, of course, as always, get hold of us on Twitter at RVTheBusiness. That's at RVTheBusiness, or email us on thebusiness@radioverulam.com. We'll be back in just a few seconds with Andrew James, straight after these messages.
Hi, this is Danny Smith. Join me weekdays from 4 till 7 p.m. for West Hart's Drive Time, with features including Chris's Film Club, Pound Saver, Community Notice Board, Calendar Artist, Hot Topics and many more besides. We also feature correspondents covering topics such as lifestyle, consumer advice, cooking, interior design and travel. We have regular interviews, local news and sports, celebrity birthdays, travel and traffic updates and competitions as well. That's all on West Hart's Drive Time with me, Danny Smith, on 92.6 FM, Radio Verulam.
Has your child outgrown day nursery? Would you like them to attend a more structured environment with a wide range of interesting and challenging activities?
I like cooking stuff with Mrs. Federici.
Mount Carmel Kindergarten in Sandpit Lane is now offering extended sessions, so even if you work, your child can enjoy an outstanding environment that prepares them for school and is somewhere they will want to go to every day.
I like playing games. I love my teachers.
For more, see our website at mountcarmelkindergarten.co.uk. Mount Carmel Kindergarten, private education for little people.
Mount Carmel Kindergarten.
You're listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. We're the voice of the local business community on 92.6 FM and on radioverulam.com. You're listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. We're the voice of the local business community on 92.6 FM and on radioverulam.com.
Welcome back to The Business. It's about 12 minutes past the hour and we'll head straight into Vicky's interview.
So it's my pleasure this week to introduce Andrew James, who is the MD of OnHand Counsel. He is a tip-top lawyer, and I've got to be very, very careful to say this, but to use his Twitter name, @HitShotLawyer. Andrew is the founder. I got it right, guys.
You have, well done.
Andrew is the founder member of the Association of Independent Business Lawyers, ABLE, which launched in March 2013 and has 15 founder members. ABLE itself, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, I'm sure Andrew will tell me in a minute, grew out of a broader network of independent business lawyers, Nibble, which Andrew has been at the forefront of establishing since he first started as an independent himself in 2009. So welcome, Andrew. It's very good to see you here.
Thank you for inviting me, Victoria.
So tell us a little bit more about why you came out of the old world, why you set up Nibble and Able and Nibble. Able and Nibble. So, yes, great ideas, I'm sure, but why?
Okay, well, Able was born out of Nibble, but going back to me and why I came out and why I do what I do now, I started my career in the city well over a quarter of a century ago. Did about 10 years there and then 10 years in a good regional law practice. And I've always specialised in corporate and commercial law, which you might need to have dealt with a corporate commercial lawyer to know what we do, but we do mergers and acquisitions and joint ventures and investments in companies and stuff like that. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I decided to move out of that way of doing business. We're talking about the way business has changed, different pressures, how different businesses are dealing with it. There's a trend in the law business which has its own problems for virtual firms to come out. More individual, experienced, good quality lawyers in different areas, different specialisms are moving on, going out to work for themselves, many under an umbrella of what's known as a virtual firm, which is one which doesn't have its own premises and maybe one which doesn't use junior lawyers. So these senior lawyers are causing a bit of an upshift in the industry by going out and doing what they do and providing it directly to clients without the overheads, without having to push work down to junior lawyers and so forth. And I'm really sort of part of that bandwagon, or at least I started a bit earlier than some. But rather than going through a virtual firm, I set up purely on my own because I got fed up with the politics of any business involving law. So now I do it on my own. But having done that, you realise that there are values to being a law firm. You can work with other people, other specialists in different areas, and it's useful to put together a network. This is why I started putting the network together of other specialists in different areas. And then after a while, I found enough interested in creating this secondary brand, because branding and marketing is one of the big problems which businesses face nowadays in the face of the internet and different ways of doing business. So the idea behind Able is that it becomes a secondary brand, so that rather than people searching for Andrew James or whatever in St Albans, they'll find me in St Albans but not elsewhere, Able might become a much bigger brand, an Able lawyer. And it's working so far. In the last month, I've had inquiries. Actually, I've had work from an attorney in somewhere in Michigan.
Oh goodness,
Michigan! I know.
Wow.
Well, she found me. She wouldn't have found me on the internet. I think she searched for independent business law or something, and that ended up with a decent amount of work. And that's the way marketing seems to work nowadays. So I think creating a brand, if you're a small business, collaborating with others to help create a brand, I think is a good idea, and that's really what I've tried to achieve with Able. It has all sorts of benefits and
how did you find the other lawyers that were thinking like you, that were of the right calibre, such that I don't know whether you had to vet people to join the association, so that you could confidently suggest one of your other associates,
yes,
and know that they were A, going to do a good job, B, were going to be charging the right sorts of prices. How do you manage that association, and how do you find those people?
It is a loose association, so it's nowhere near a partnership, and we don't hold each other out. It's basically based on relationships. If you've got a good relationship with someone, you will refer them. So I vet all the people who've applied through a LinkedIn group to join Nibble, and I go online and check what they can do. And there's certain criteria. You need to have done at least 10 years, and you need to specialise maybe 90+% of your time in a specific area and work in a certain way. Some of the nibblers, if I might call them that, do sort of maybe work with one or two other people, and some of them even employ junior lawyers, which to be an enabler is verboten. You can't do that. You have to be 10, 15 years plus, and you have to have your own personal business brand as a business. Mine is OnHand Counsel Limited, and work and specialise in a certain way. And so over the period of time, I in particular, because I've helped put the network and the association together, know the lawyers and the qualities, and as a result, I've sort of referred opportunities. Referrals and business leads work both ways. So that's obviously one of the benefits of Able, is not just the SEOing or the PR profile, but being able to say we are part of a bigger organisation, which is very early days, so it hasn't got that big value yet, but just the benefit of cross-referring, it does work.
One of the things that you mentioned was that it's going to be a tip-top lawyer that's going to be doing the work, not an associate, an assistant. But then you just mentioned some of the nibblers actually do have junior lawyers with them. So is that not creeping back into the old style and the old school?
Well, that's why they're not ablers. There's a benefit of the nibble network, because I could have set up a network of niche practices.
Yes.
Because most businesses looking for the kind of services I provide, and many of these other specialist lawyers, will go to a full-service commercial law firm, usually a good city one or a good regional one, and that's where they'll go. So there's a benefit for niche practices who just specialise in, say, litigation or corporate commercial property or IP or things like that, to set up niche practices. So all the nibblers, on the whole, because there's a few vague exceptions, are focused on a specialist area. So there's advantage to having that network.
Right.
And when I was frankly setting up Nibble, the idea is to try and build up the numbers.
Right.
Able is, and it doesn't have its own particular brand. There's no website behind it, whereas Able has its website, has a key, it's got key values, if you call them that, which all the members have to abide by. So no junior lawyers, unfortunately, for the junior lawyers.
And just tell me that a lot of big companies that need sort of corporate law, they used to have in-house lawyers. They're now potentially looking outside or to, as you say, regional law firms. Why would they come to you, or one of the ablers, or one of the nibblers, instead of just going to one of the local law firms that seem to do a very good job at a regional law firm rate?
Yes, well, in terms of local law firms, it needs to be, well, there's certain types of law. I mean, I do corporate commercial law, and my last firm, which I was responsible for building up a department, we ended up with 10 corporate commercial lawyers. You get very few firms locally or regionally who have that kind of critical mass of quality law. You might and many of the corporate lawyers will also dabble in or do commercial property and dabble in corporate or whatever. Why should businesses come to independent specialists? Well, it's because, I suppose, the approachability of the lawyers. You have a personal relationship. If you're a senior lawyer, you're doing the work yourself. You already know what you're doing, so you're adding value. And the key thing is that, yes, we don't have, many of us have premises to pay for, but the key overhead and the key business pressure which full service firms have is junior lawyers. And for a successful law firm, you need to be well geared, and that usually involves having 3 or more junior lawyers per partner. And then you have to charge those junior.
I can hear costs rocketing here.
Well, absolutely, you charge junior lawyers at quite a lot of money, and then you have to and then you have to pay them a lot of money. You then have to check what they do, and it all adds up. Whereas what we do, because we're all experienced, it's very hard to go out on your own without that expertise to start with, is we can do it ourselves. I can draft, I can take instructions, I can add all the value myself, and I can then draft something without checking someone else's work, etc., etc.
Is it difficult to help clients understand that you, A, offer this quality of counsel, but B, that you can offer this quality at the price that is somewhat lower than that they might be expecting?
Well, I think people can understand the economics or the business case for it. What I have struggled when I started on my own 4 years ago, I had the nice idea that wouldn't it be nice to be a city lawyer for businesses which previously couldn't afford city lawyers. But the smaller business community, if you haven't used a city lawyer, don't know how they work, it's harder to get that message across. So I'm now focusing a bit more on the types of clients I used to act for more, the bigger clients, ideally ones who have used city firms. It's a much easier sell when I'm speaking to them, and they do understand it, yes.
Andrew, one thing that's occurred to me, is there always, though, going to be a part of the market that you'll never be able to get hold of because there'll be big companies who want to and feel more comfortable hiring big lawyers or big businesses with reputations, not because they think they're any better, and they're certainly not cheaper, but simply because no one ever got fired for hiring IBM, that kind of principle.
Absolutely, I was going to mention the IBM factor, and that is absolutely the case. And there are certain types of work, big corporate public company listings and stuff, where there's no way I could deal with that, because you need to have teams of people throwing at them. For smaller deals, I can do lots of the work which a junior lawyer or a trainee would do, and do them myself and better. So that's not such a problem. 95% of what I ever did, I would say I do much better on my own and add much better value on my own. But that's one reason why I created the Nibble and particularly the Able network, because to try and create a brand name which is recognised for quality, and which you can say, I am an able lawyer, and then hopefully get around the IBM factor. But the IBM factor has always been a problem. When I was a partner in a firm, an M25 corridor, if it can be a round thing, can be a corridor. we always had that problem with saying, we have intelligent legal people here, and we're trying to get work out of the city, which is where good corporate stuff always went, and we always struggled. It was a no-brainer, because we'd provide our services cheaper and more proportionately in some ways, because when you're used to acting for medium-sized businesses, you tend to recognise the issues and deal with them. You're acting for business owners more than many juniors in big city firms do, who will bring a sort of checklist approach to stuff. So yes, it's a no-brainer, but the IBM factor is an issue, and so we have to deal with it. And in my case, having moved out onto my own, Able is part of that solution.
Have you seen any horror stories because people haven't been using counsel of the right sort of quality? That maybe you've had some more junior people dabbling in an area where maybe they probably should have had a little bit more experienced counsel.
I've seen cases where people have a business deal and they go to the local firm and they don't recognise the issues, or sometimes they just charge enormous amounts of money to do a checklist approach because they don't know where the issues are and where they have to be more proportionate. I've seen also in the smaller business communities, the trouble with corporate lawyers is we are expensive. I am a fraction, albeit quite a high fraction, of city lawyers, but we're expensive. So if you're dealing with small business people who are not used to dealing with lawyers and are not used to paying those prices, they will do deals on their own. And I've seen lots of deals which people have put together themselves fall apart. For example, people going into business together and not setting out the rights and relationships between themselves, then falling apart and then finding out that maybe they've got a deadlock company and the whole thing, they can't do anything.
So you just talked about it being expensive. Now, in marketing terms, I'm sure that you're offering value.
Did I use the word expensive?
You did use the word
I've been told
expensive.
not to say that. Sorry.
No, I don't think you meant expensive.
Yeah.
But I mean, what is expensive? How do you price yourself? How do you have a price list? Do you have how does it work?
It's interesting. Well, lawyers have traditionally always charged by where they work out the cost of what they're providing, which is them, and so they value themselves on an hourly basis. That's the traditional way. Where possible, you try and estimate, you try and work out what a job would involve, but it's quite difficult. If someone says drive me somewhere and you don't know how far it is, you don't know how to quote for it. So in terms of cost, I mean, I know that I am a good 30-50% cheaper. Can I use cheaper? I can't use cheaper or expensive. Better value, or lower hourly rate for myself than even a medium-sized city firm, let alone the bigger firm. So I know that whatever. I mean, I think everything's expensive. So if the price comes down, I'm just quite comfortable that the way I operate, I can always undercut the opposition purely in terms of what I charge. Yeah. But that doesn't even factor in the fact that they will push work the junior lawyers, who often charge what I charge, and then take longer and then have their work checked by the senior lawyers. So there's that saving as well.
Final sort of question. Got to be really brief, and then do tell people how they can get in touch with you. But if there was just one piece of advice that you would give to a lawyer who was wanting to break out of the usual mould, what would it be?
There's different ways. I mean, there's the usual mould of law firms and the usual mould of in-house. I would certainly advise them to do something which I was never really good at. I was interested in business processes and helping build up law firms through getting the structures in place and bringing in junior lawyers and all the rest of it. When I was a law firm partner, I would advise them to make sure they build up their own personal client following, because that's where your value is ultimately, however good you are as a lawyer. And I'd advise them to focus on that. And really, in terms of doing what I've done and going on my own, once you're absolutely confident you're good enough. I mean, some people will happily go on their own without being absolutely confident they're good enough. But I would advise them to know what they're doing, and then be prepared to market and all things which lawyers, when I was trained, were never trained to do. Because it's a key part of what we do now.
So, how do people get in touch with you, Andrew?
They can phone me on. Can I give my phone number? 01727 867 289, or they can email me at andrew.james@onhandcounsel.co.uk.
That's great. Thank you very much, Andrew. I know you're going to join the panel discussion. So thanks for coming along and giving us a bit more insight.
Thank you very much, Victoria.
The Solid Gold Music Show on Radio Verulam is with you on Saturday mornings between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. Join Derek Staines and Stephen Hall as they flash you back, value discs, have a brief biog and interview the stars. We also allow SJH to ramble down nostalgia lane. It's all on the Premier Oldies show here on 92.6 FM. The Solid Gold Music Show, sponsored by DocGuard of Luton.
Radio Verulam Community Partners.
Hertfordshire Chorus is one of the finest large choirs in the country, performing at the top venues throughout the UK and regularly touring abroad. This nationally acclaimed choir is here on your doorstep. They rehearse every Wednesday in Hatfield and are always happy to welcome new singers. So if you're looking to join a top-class choir, then go along to any rehearsal. If you're not a singer but enjoy listening to good music, why not go along to one of the concerts? Details are on the website, which is hertfordshirechorus.org.uk.
For more on Radio Verulam Community Partners, go to radioverulam.com/community partners. If you want to get in touch with the business on Radio Verulam, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.
Yes, welcome back to the business. It's 28 minutes past the hour. Our theme tonight is doing things differently. And we're going to be doing things very differently because we're going from the legal profession now, aren't we, Vicky, to insurance.
Yes, I was a bit lucky earlier in the summer to be invited to join Andrew Sykes at the launch of the Richmond House Insurance Brokers. Now, a lot of people out there will know Andrew Sykes and know that he's a well-known character. Who could be considered to be quite traditional in his approach to things. Well, he has really changed the shape of and the look of Richmond House in launching the insurance RHIB because they are really doing very, very different things with insurance. I was on his boat at his summer launch, and here's what he had to say. So I'm here on a beautiful canal barge which belongs to Reach Out Plus, the charity. We're here with Andrew Sykes of RHG Insurance Brokers, and they're hosting a really lovely afternoon tea party on the canal. I think it is, not a river, isn't it? It's a canal. To celebrate the launch of their new branding, their new website, and their relatively new company. So, Andrew, tell us about RHG Insurance Brokers.
I think the idea is that we wanted to start a company that was going to be different, because insurance broking is seen as very dry and dull, and we wanted something that was going to be lively and fresh and modern and attract people in. So the whole idea behind the company is to reflect in our new branding and logo generally something that is different to the sort of starched white and possibly pile them high, sell them cheap type of idea that might be part of insurance. We want to have a completely different view of it and change people's perception.
Because insurance broking doesn't have such a fantastic reputation, does it? So you're going to do things differently.
I think it needs to be fun, but it also needs to be an education, because a lot of people, and one of the main thrusts that we have, is that a lot of people buy insurance for the wrong reasons. And I'm trying to get people to turn it the other way around, because insurance is a contract, and therefore the most important thing in insurance is the words of the contract and not the numbers of the contract. And a lot of people say, this is the price, what can I do with it, rather than saying, have I got the right cover? And until you question the cover, the price shouldn't come into it. And people do it the wrong way around, and we're trying to educate them nicely to say, what do you need to have covered, rather than, can I get it the same price or cheaper than last year? The most horrifying statistic we find is that 80% of SME type businesses do not survive a major loss.
Really?
And that's because they're either buying the wrong insurance or they're buying it for the wrong reasons. They're not actually looking at the major question, which is, what are the factors that could kill my business? They're looking at a package and saying, can I get it cheaper than last year?
So this is the approach that you have with new clients. It's literally, it's almost turning it on its head. Not what can you afford, it's what can you afford not to have covered.
Yes, it's to take a risk management approach to insurance and saying, what is it that is important to me? And if you're, say, a road transport haulier type person, your business is not going to be the same as the haulier next door to you. There will be different factors, so you can't just say, well, I'll have the same package he's got, because I know he got a good deal, so I'll have the same one. It won't be the same factors for you. We find we get a lot of business from people who have got it wrong and realised afterwards that it was bad news and they didn't have the cover they thought they had. And we then go through the exercise we would anyway to find out exactly what it is that makes the business tick, look at their own contract wordings, their own terms and conditions, and making sure that the insurance dovetails with how they want to run their business. And there are people who let their business be run by their insurance, which is
not the way to go about it. Just going back to this fabulous new design and this new approach to insurance, how does that sit with your existing clients that maybe have been more used to the slightly greyer approach to it? How did they feel when they saw this fabulous new image coming through?
I have been astonished and overwhelmed by the positive feedback. Everyone who's seen the website, everyone who's seen the logo said, I really like it, it's very colourful, it's very you, as in RHG, and I think it's very, very good. I really have been surprised, but having been slightly cynical, should we do it, shouldn't we do it? Yes, let's go and do it and get it sorted. The feedback's been astonishing.
And how long has it taken to get this whole new image going?
I think overall, from the first thinkings, it's time we did something because we weren't expressing ourselves properly. It's probably been 18 months of a lot of work by a lot of people. It's been a real group effort.
And how many points in that did you think, what on earth are we doing?
Until the last moment, I think, really. It's because it just is. It's turning everything on its head and trying to do it. But I've had such team support, and the external people that we've used have been absolutely wonderful. So it was key to have that team around you.
And it's relatively early days, but have you seen traffic to the website increase? Have you seen new clients come in that are wowed out by a new approach?
We have. We're still working on our Google Analytics, which
I'm sure you're not working on the Google Analytics.
No, I didn't want you to think I knew what I was talking about, but I know what's important with them. We're also developing our social media outlook generally and being guided over that as well. It has already made a difference, and there are people who are coming and talk to us because of the website, and they're sort of saying, we really like it, we'd like to talk to you. As indeed with other things, and I believe we do Facebook and tweets and things, and it's wonderful.
You know a man or a girl that can do it better, and it's working.
I know a whole team of them, and it's wonderful. Yes.
Well, it's really nice to hear that not only is there a team, but it's a team of external experts that you've brought in to take on the responsibility of doing things differently. You showed a rather smart and fancy certificate that I believe is going to be framed and put on the wall in the, I expect, a reception. Just tell us a little bit about that.
This is the fact that we've now been awarded the Chartered Insurance Broker status, which is the highest accolade an insurance broker can get. There are certainly under 100 in the whole country who've got it, and we're just very proud that it reflects the ethos of the team and the hard work in the team that's got us there.
Thank you enormously for coming away from your party. I won't hold you up any longer, but do tell us what the website address is, so that anybody that's wanting an alternative approach to extremely highly qualified insurance broking can come and have a look.
Yes, it's www.rhgib.co.uk.
Thank you very much, Andrew Sykes of RHGIB.
Thanks so much.
And that was Vicky on the barge with Andrew Sykes, talking about doing things differently. So far we've had insurance and we've had the legal profession, and now we're on to our panel, and we've got a different host of our panel. In fact, we're always doing different things. So we've got Clare to chair the panel. Clare, take it away.
We've got two topics this evening, but firstly, let me introduce the panel. So first of all, we'll welcome back Andrew. James of OnHand Counsel, and I'd like to introduce Amanda Brown of Altera. Amanda, why don't you give us some information about your company and what you do?
Yes, sure, Claire. I run Altera, and we are specialists in online communications. So we help businesses of all sizes, ranging from one-man bands right up to quite big firms of accountants, actually, in their online presence, and in particular getting to grips with social media. So we manage their social media on their behalf. So we're on Twitter all day long, sometimes on Facebook, but we specialise in LinkedIn.
A couple of years ago, you decided to give up conventional face-to-face networking and try something else. Do you want to tell us a little bit about why you did that and what happened when you did that?
It's interesting in Hertfordshire. Actually, you could probably do face-to-face networking every single day of the week for breakfast, lunch and dinner if you so wished. And whilst it's great to get face-to-face, it takes up an awful lot of time. The trouble with that is you've got to drive to the venue, you have a nice meeting with people, you do get to meet different faces every week, but I was finding that actually it was taking an enormous amount of time, and with time at a premium for so many people, I made the decision to spend a minimum of 6 months actually moving my networking from offline to online, and as a result I managed to get a cruise, not a leisure cruise out of online networking, but actually I went as a speaker, and this was directly from a connection I'd made on LinkedIn, as a speaker on the PIMS cruise run by Richmond Events with 500 or 600 financial advisors. So
oh my goodness. That
was a great benefit from the online networking.
I hear that you've now gone back to the conventional networking. Can you tell me why you did that?
Well, as most of my work's online, so I'm in front of a computer most of the day, albeit with my colleague there from time to time, sometimes she works from home, you actually do get rather lonely. So I joined up with a networking group called FAB, Friendly and Businesslike, run by Clare and Catherine, who are well known to the St Albans community. And really the great thing about that is it's short and sharp. We meet on a Thursday once a month, and there's no food involved, so you're not going to get fat networking with Fab. You're going to stay fit, actually. So that was a big advantage, actually, and then we found that's... So
are you glad you've come back to the conventional?
Yes, I don't really use it for generating business, but more actually to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on locally, finding out what other people are doing, the ways in which they're growing their businesses.
So let's go on to tonight's topics, and the first one actually involves social networking, so you'll be very good at this one, Amanda. In this case, Twitter. Now, Twitter this week took first steps towards stock market flotation, but the figures in the press make very interesting reading, mainly because although they've had a revenue of over $200 million last year, they also had losses of over $50 million. In other words, they don't actually make a profit. Now, they started in 2006. They have over 500 million users. It's a very popular network. I use it myself, like a lot of business owners. And actually, it's usually the first place that you can go to get breaking news. It's also very easily accessed and used on mobile phones. And in fact, 65% of the company's advertising revenue was generated from mobile devices. So what I was wanting to ask tonight really was, what do you think of Twitter making this move? Do you believe the network's likely to grow and move into profit?
Well, I'm not a financial advisor, but I would have to say that I don't see without backing they're going to be able to actually generate sufficient investment to move it into a position where it is going to turn from a loss-making situation into a profit. We saw exactly the same thing with Facebook, which actually their IPO was about 2 years ago, and it's taken probably almost that amount of time for that share price to actually reach its launch share price. I think the jury's out, but if I had, somebody tweeting, there's 500 million tweets every day, the potential for them to find innovative ways to drive advertising revenue without putting the user off, I'm sure that they're going to find that when they launch, they're going to get some pretty good support.
And if I can bring you in here, Andrew, if you had people or companies, say, wanting to be part of the share buying, is this a good stage for them to come in, the early stage, or would you recommend they wait until the company's in profit before doing it?
Again, I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm probably not qualified to comment. I think the good time to come in with a company like that is probably at the very beginning and become one of the founders, and then you reap the rich growth. At this stage, there's not a lot. You're not going to make a lot of money out of this as an investment, I don't think. But in principle, these social media sites, they capture lots of people. In theory, there should be lots of money to be made. You wonder, I don't know what the investment's going to be used for. You'd have thought if they can cut out 50 or 100 million, they'll be back in profit. So what are they spending their money on, or what are they going to do with the money? I mean,
I guess they're still in a sort of development. They seem to spend a lot of money in development, don't they? Twitter and developing.
I think with all these things, to some extent, the key thing is to build up what they do and build up the audience and the numbers, and then think about how to make money out of it. And lots of these sites are still thinking how to make money out of it. LinkedIn's thinking how to make money out of it, as is Facebook still, and things are changing all the time. But if I was asking people, advising people, which I don't, as to where to invest for something like this, yes, it's a fun thing because it's Twitter. It's something they use, says they think it's fun. But if people want fun, they may as well go onto one of these new crowdfunding sites you're getting springing up, and actually get closer to the game.
And I think a little bit what you were saying there, Amanda, about in order to make it work money wise, they are going to have to alter it, which may not make it less favourable, say, to the current people that are using it.
I think the danger for Twitter is if they make the platform too complicated, they'll lose the users. And of all the social networks, Twitter is the easiest. It's the easiest to understand. It's the easiest for business people to use for their marketing. Not that that was why it was, invented. It is an easy platform to make an impact with.
I think proof of that has just come in, because whilst you guys were chatting, I just looked on our Twitter page and I just saw a direct message from Amanda Brown, no less. You must have sent one on just before you came on air. I've just got a validation thing sort of coming in. So anyway, let's go with that, and we'll come back to you with the next question in just a second.
Join Simon Carver on Fridays from 6:30 p.m. for the Film Guide. We look at the UK cinema box office top 10, a selection of the new cinema releases and the best of the week's films on free-to-air TV. That's Fridays from 6:30 p.m. on West Hart's Drive Time with Danny Smith, exclusively on Radio Verulam 92.6 FM.
If you want to get in touch with the business on Radio Verulam, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.
So on to our second topic tonight, and we're talking about Sainsburys, the supermarket chain. Now this week they announced a 2% increase in quarterly sales to the end of September. But the interesting thing was this was actually mainly fuelled by an increase in online sales of 15% and an increase in the use of the smaller convenience stores where sales rose 20%. So a real move away from the large out-of-town retail centres that seemed so popular only a couple of years ago. And in keeping with the subject of tonight's programme, which is taking a different approach, Sainsburys say that they realise they now have to deal with a different type of shopper. They believe, and all the evidence is, that shopping behaviour has changed quite radically even over the last couple of years. What do you think, Amanda? Do you think that our shopping habits have changed?
Yes, I think they have. I know when certainly my children were younger, I used to do a weekly shop, was very loyal to one particular supermarket brand. Now I seem to flip from supermarket to supermarket depending on my mood. And I'd say that in order to keep the wastage down, I think people are very keen on not throwing their hard invested money away by putting a third of their fridge in the bin at the end of the week. People are being, much more careful with and that means they're shopping more from day to day, just like the French do.
Andrew, do you reckon that internet shopping has maybe affected?
Oh, absolutely, and I think the figures show that their internet sales are up enormously. And speaking from my personal use of shopping, I don't do much shopping, but I used to go regularly to the local supermarket, Waitrose, which is a very nice experience as supermarkets go for a user. But now we get pretty much all our groceries shopping online, delivered to our door. And as it gets better, and because our first experience fell out and we went back to real life shopping, but it gets better, and the ones which don't match up, the experience is okay. So yes, online's definitely the way to go, and it's difficult for the retail world generally is under pressure unless you can offer something in terms of customer service and experience and things which customers actually want to go to. Why will they go for a shop when the process of ordering and getting things delivered is getting easier? But other shopping I do, we've recently moved, I think partly due to the BSE and things, to using a lovely farm butchers where I went to yesterday to get our meat. Hedges off the North Orbital, I'm allowed to promote, and I go there for the experience. I can smell cows and things. It's lovely.
Now, one of the things that has been flagged up is this thing called pre-shopping, which is where they are going to go out to shops, but they will do a little bit of research on the internet before they go out. Do you find that you do that yourself? You maybe look something up and do a bit of research before possibly going out to purchase?
I don't do it personally, but I guess those avid Facebook users might be going on and checking the deal of the day on the Sainsburys Facebook page. People use social media very often for free and special offers, so I guess that's probably helping those big brands actually make an impact, keeping in touch closely with their customers.
Now, do you think there is anything the stores can do, or do you think really that until things settle down, what can these large retail stores out of town do to try and attract, say, you back, Andrew, and you, Amanda? What would you say, Andrew?
Apart from build more smaller in-town stores, which are making more money for them, I'm not sure. I mean, there is a convenience to going to an out-of-town store, parking, and it is very easy. But maybe there's more and more competition, more and more out-of-town stores. So whereas one town used to have one out-of-town store, maybe there's three, and the pressure is on. And so, what can they do to distinguish themselves? I don't know. How do you improve the customer experience, or what can you do? I mean, shopping centres often provide a good experience. So can they bring in, French style, a whole more variety of shopping and more fun things to shop for in the same place, which then bring people in to get their groceries? I don't know. I'm not a retailing person.
It could be as well the petrol prices perhaps putting people off going backwards and forwards to these out of town stores. I mean, personally, what I find is sometimes they are just a bit too big now. You're maybe not going in to get very many things, and you don't particularly want to be in this enormous big store.
To walk a mile to get one thing. Yes,
So I mean, it's not interesting buying, our big heavy items. So buying those online where you can get a special deal is a great idea. But actually, your meat and your daily fresh veg, sometimes quite nice just to pop into the local store.
For non-grocery things, the question earlier was how much you research online. Well, I haven't got into the voucher things, and I probably should do, because I think there's lots of good processes you can do to get good deals on stuff. But the more sort of expensive the things you're going for, yes, I spend ages going online looking for them, comparing prices, and then maybe going to the real life shop and seeing if they got it.
Well, thanks very much, and I think we can conclude that even in the last couple of years that we've all had to find a different approach to both business and the way we would run our lives.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, both Claire, of course, Amanda and Andrew. In keeping with our theme of doing things differently for tonight, we've got a very different type of business coming up now. We send Vicky off to canal barges. We've also sent her off to a garage, which doesn't sound very exciting until you realise that what's in the garage is actually a salon. Liz Moore, owner of the Moore Clinic in Bricket Wood. Vicky went along to have a word with her.
So I'm here with Liz Moore, and we are at the Moore Salon, which is actually in a converted garage, and you would never believe it. It is absolutely beautiful here. It's like being in a very, very professional spa. It's all pink and it's all mirrors and it's beautiful. So this is Liz doing things in a very, very different way. It's not very often that you come across a spa or a salon in a garage.
Well, about 12 years ago, we returned from Johannesburg in South Africa, and I decided to do something very different when I returned to the UK. Before I left South Africa, I stumbled across a product called Biosculpture and was really impressed by the product and how it worked, and thought, hey, maybe when I go back to the UK, I will, train and end up doing biosculpture nails. So basically working from just a room in my house, and then shortly after that I walked around my garage one day and decided this could actually be a really nice salon. It was dark and cold and dingy, and I thought, how am I going to do this? So we got a builder in and we got some quotes, and eventually we turned it into a salon.
And when you're starting to work from home in a professional way like this, with a specific environment, how does it work from a business perspective?
You've got to be really careful that your clients don't cause problems with parking, and on the grid, provided you don't have sort of half a dozen cars parked outside your house at any one, and provided you don't store large quantities of chemicals. There's absolutely no problem with working from home.
Well, that's interesting. And in terms of sort of health and safety, with lots of small businesses, there are huge sort of hurdles to jump over with health and safety. How did you cope with that? How did you manage that? Did you have to talk to health and safety people before you set up?
No. As far as I'm aware, there's actually no issues with health and safety.
So do you have particular insurance at all?
Yes, here? I do. I have insurance. It's an insurance which is for beauticians.
Right.
And
so when you opened your salon in the garage, how did you first attract people? Because when you come up, when I drove up, I didn't know there was a salon here at all. How do you attract people when you're working from your home?
Well, when I started off, basically I started off with one client, and I got that client by doing a leaflet drop. And then that client told some of her friends, and basically it grew from one client and then went to 5 clients and then went to 10 clients and basically, on from there.
And I know for a fact that you said earlier that you've some of your clients have been coming to you for as long as 8 to 10 years. So you must be doing something good. But I also understand you've expanded recently and you're now doing more than just looking after people's hands.
Well, I've just decided to introduce waxing. So now I feel that I can offer these ladies both waxing plus fingers plus a lovely luxury pedicure.
So it really is a business that started from a room in the house, graduated to a converted garage that doesn't look anything like a garage. It looks very much like a salon, and now you're actually expanding the range of products. So it's really a success story.
Absolutely, I'm absolutely delighted, and I love what I do. I want my clients to come and feel that it's their time out in the week. Yeah, I want it to be a special hour for them. Everybody's very busy nowadays, so it's just nice to have people feel that that's their hour in the week or in the month or fortnightly. Okay, well, first salon I've ever been to in a garage. It's absolutely lovely.
Absolutely lovely it was, and it's a fascinating lady. And we've been talking off air about a few things that she does around networking, Claire.
Yeah, but what's quite interesting, I'm just saying to Trevor, obviously Trevor doesn't go to get his nails done, but the likes of Vicky and I do.
Don't be so sure.
And When you're sitting with someone for an hour, because Liz she's a real networker, and when you're sitting chatting for an hour, she has lots of business cards to hand. So if you talk about something, she'll suddenly produce a business card and say, why don't you try such and such a person? So, I mean, she's in an absolutely perfect type of profession for networking, if you like. She's absolutely brilliant at it.
And talking of networking, is that we always talk about the sort of networking events that are coming up, and we've got 3 of them tonight. Vicky, what have you got?
So we've got the Hearts Expo coming up on November the 19th. A lot of us have been there because I think it's in its 3rd or 4th year, and it's one of the biggest networking events in Hearts. Well worth visiting. I don't know whether they've got any stands left, but certainly you can still go online and book event tickets. Visit www.thehertfordshirebusinessexpo.co.uk. It's really, really worth a trip. We're certainly going to be there with our Radio Verulam hats on, as well as our own individual business hats, I would suspect.
Claire, what have you got?
Yeah, I've got one. It's actually the University of Hertfordshire. So this is not one of our regular network joints. University of Hertfordshire in Hatfield. It's the 25th of October, and it's in the evening, 7:45 till 9 o'clock. And it's called Why Project Management Matters. So it has quite a lot of speakers there. The price is £10 for members and non-members. And yes, you can. The business school, they have Dr. Hanny Wells, and he discusses how organisations increasingly embrace project management techniques as a way of controlling the invested resource and improving project management. So it sounds quite involved and certainly worth going along and having a listen to. So that's on the 25th of October.
And I have just a quick minute to plug the Saturday 16th of November, the St Albans Chamber of Commerce Ball, with guest act The Slaves. I've no idea what sort of pop-tastic music they play. Have either of you ever been to one of those at all?
Well, if it's anything like the St George's Day Massacre, the St George's Day Lunch, I would suspect that there'll be a lot of people dressed up as slaves boogieing on down.
Right, it sounds very revelrous and fantastic. Well, we would normally just review what we've all learned from this show, but unfortunately we're sort of running out of time. We've had some great guests. We've had Andrew James in, and Amanda. We've had some great interviewees. We've sent Vicky to all sorts of funny places to do her interviews. But all that's left to say is that from Vicky Scott and Clare McAnulty and myself, Trevor Merriden, thank you and a very good night to you.
You've been listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. If there's anything in the show you want to talk to us about, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.